This kids next door theory gives new meaning to the idea that the kids next door never quit. And if it's true, then it'll be hard to ever look at Numbuh 1 again without feeling heartbroken, as fans of the show have often wondered what happened to make the charismatic leader of the kids next door so bald, and most speculate that it was for a dark reason. But for some reason, no theory has seemed to hold any weight with very little proof to back it. But that's not the case anymore, and it's starting to look like Numbuh 1 was bald because he was attacked by his arch enemy before he even considered joining his team. So keep your tissues handy and be ready to want to rewatch Codename Kids Next Door, because it's time to discuss what really made Nigel Uno bald. Normally, this wouldn't be an important topic for most characters, but Numbuh 1 was pretty much known for his bald head and super cool sunglasses. I mean, Numbuh 1 may have had a lot of good qualities and interesting personality quirks, but none of them raised questions among fans quite like his hair, or I guess lack thereof. His shiny bald head even turned him into the butt of a few jokes over his years at the kids next door, but I wonder if anyone would have been poking fun at him if they knew why he really lost his hair. And you can trust that fans have tried to figure it out for years. Ever since the show came out, kids and adults have made up theory after theory about what happened to Nigel's hair. Now, one of the biggest theories that concerned Numbuh 1 and his super early onset baldness has always been the theory that he was a cancer survivor, but up until now there just wasn't enough evidence to fully back this theory. However, that all changed when a Reddit user put their own tweak to the theory, and according to this Reddit thread, other fans seem to fully back the idea. The gist of the theory is that before he ever joined the kids next door, Nigel was taken hostage and his captors somehow managed to give him cancer. I guess that would be your average Reddit experience. It's pretty bad there. But nevertheless, once he was freed from his captors, Nigel then started his battle with cancer, which resulted in him losing all of his hair, but managing to survive with his life. After pulling through, he was officially granted status as a Kids Next Door member and quickly became the leader of Sector 5. And it was there that he swore to fight his enemies with everything that he had while making sure that the kids next door never failed. On the surface, I can see how this might sound like any other theory that suggests Numbuh 1 is a cancer survivor. But when the theory is broken down bit by bit, it's kind of crazy how ironclad it is, and it makes the idea that Numbuh 1 lost his hair during his fight with cancer even more messed up than it originally was. Like a lot of the kids next door storylines, this one all started with the delightful children from down the lane, and once again they proved to not be delightful at all. According to the theory, before he was Numbuh 1, Nigel was kidnapped by the delightful children because they believed that he knew something that would help them take down the kids next door. Now, this part of the theory is actually 100% true, confirmed in Operation Fountain. In the episode, a young girl named Leaky Leona was kidnapped by the delightful children, and while the kids next door were jumping through hoops trying to save her, Numbuh 5 revealed the truth. After having a hard time getting Leona away from the delightful children, Numbuh 5 was irritated and asked why they were helping the girl in the first place. And as he harshly put it, she hadn't done anything for them, and they hardly even knew her. But Numbuh 5's response shocked everyone. She responded by saying, because the last time Numbuh 5 didn't help someone kidnapped by the delightful children, they did something she can't ever forgive. And when Numbuh 4 inquired what it was that was so bad, Numbuh 1 chimed in and explained that they made him bald. This was a shocking revelation to the rest of Sector 5, as well as everyone watching at home. It was officially confirmed that not only was Numbuh 1 kidnapped by the delightful children from down the lane before becoming a member of the kids next door, but they were also the ones who took away his supposedly glorious hair. The reason why it seems like the kidnapping took place before Nigel joined up with the kids next door was simply because none of the members aside from Numbuh 5 seemed to remember the incident, and they also didn't remember what Numbuh 1 was like with hair. This is where the theory kicks in, as fans still had no answer to what exactly happened that made him go bald. The delightful children would have needed to be doing something pretty menacing to get any information out of Numbuh 1, which is why, according to this theory, they gave him cancer. It's important to note, though, that according to any scientific research that's been done on cancer, a person cannot deliberately give another person cancer. But you need to remember a few things. The first being that Codename Kids Next Door was a cartoon world where anything was possible. The kids even had a base on the moon that they traveled to and from regularly in between the bigger missions and to convene with the rest of the organization. And with all of the crazy gadgets and gizmos like the dairy accelerated rocket thingy, aka DART, which was just a milk-fueled rocket that had room for one person to fly in. If they could make that, then there is definitely a chance that the delightful children, or their master, father, could make some sort of ray that gave Numbuh 1 cancer. And sadly, as Numbuh 5 pointed out in Operation Fountain, she wasn't there to save Numbuh 1, so he would have been diseased with something that was likely intended to kill him. So if this theory is true, and that's how he lost his hair, then I truly feel bad for the young Numbuh 1. The one thing that we can be happy about though is the fact that even though he lost his hair, Nigel still managed to survive, although from that point on he was more likely to be referred to by his codename Numbuh 1. As you probably know, for the most part, it isn't actually cancer that causes someone's hair to fall out, but instead it's the treatment that's used to fight it. In most cases, doctors typically recommend some sort of radiation-based therapy such as chemo, and while it actively helps your body kill the cancer cells and keep them from spreading, it also takes its own toll on your body, and that's most likely what happened to Numbuh 1. After somehow escaping or being released by the delightful children from down the lane, Nigel was diagnosed with cancer, and according to this theory, the kid decided to fight it. He took on any treatments that he needed, and like a boss, he beat cancer. So take that. But unfortunately, his hair wasn't able to survive. To make things worse, if this theory is correct, then it looks like his hair follicles suffered permanent damage or something, because his hair showed no signs of growing back at any point in the show, meaning that the damage done by the delightful children from down the lane was permanent even though they didn't manage to kill him. Numbuh 1's ability to survive was one of the many factors that played a significant part in him being inducted into the Kids Next Door, along with the painful guilt that Numbuh 5 felt. You see, a commonly overlooked fact that fans learned watching the show is that Numbuh 5 was the one who suggested that Numbuh 1 join Kids Next Door. Not only that, she even hacked his grades to make sure that he would pass the entrance exam and be allowed into their organization. And when you look at this theory, it seems like she helped him for a number of reasons, surely one of which was that she saw how resilient he was since Nigel was able to face the delightful children on his own. But the other reason is that she felt guilty for not being able to save him herself. That's why she was so hell-bent on saving Leaky Leona after all, because she didn't do everything she could do to save Numbuh 1 in the past. And once Numbuh 5 helped Nigel pass the test and join her squad, she saw that he was more than just tough. Numbuh 1 was an amazing strategist who knew how to take command. This is probably why Numbuh 5 decided to step down as the leader of Sector 5 and promote Numbuh 1 to the position. Despite her being his senior, she saw that he had more to offer the group as their leader than she did at the time. That of course changed later on because in Codename Kids Next Door, Numbuh 5 did eventually become the supreme leader. But she wouldn't have been free to take over that job had she not already found the perfect person to lead herself and the rest of Sector 5, and that person was without a doubt Numbuh 1. Now remember, this is just a theory, but one that's backed by a lot of fans. The closest we'll get to real answers as to what happened to Numbuh 1's hair was what they addressed in Operation Fountain. This means all that can really be said is that Numbuh 1 lost his hair after being kidnapped by the delightful children from down the lane, and Numbuh 5 blamed herself for not being able to save him. That single situation has affected the two deeply and influenced how seriously they take their jobs at the Kids Next Door. But I'm curious though, what do you think about this theory? Did the delightful children from down the lane really kidnap Numbuh 1 and give him cancer? Well, I guess that would explain why he was bald in the show, but do you think it's true? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. I am looking forward to reading all that you have to say.